Nancy Miller,
Yes.
Kenna Johnson,
Yes.
Maureen Gilbert,
She's here, but she has to.
Chelsea Leckelman,
She said yes.
Dale Schneeman.
Yes. All right, I'd like to welcome those of you who came here physically tonight. Also welcome those who are watching virtually as well. As many of you know, this is an unprecedented time that the whole nation is involved in. Every school district is having to make a difficult decision on the reopening as far as which model they're going to be starting out with. As I shared last week, whatever decision comes about tonight from the board meeting, we realize that it's going to be a fluid situation, that whether it's during the middle of the semester, at the end of the semester, the models, the way that the model is actually performing may be tweaked, it may change. And let's hope that whatever model we start out with, that we can continue throughout the semester and we don't have any more pandemic or outbreaks happening. We trust that. I'd like to also welcome here this evening also the Blue Ridge Federation Teachers President, Rob Duke. It's nice to have you here. And we also like to give our condolences to the Hieronymus family and the sudden loss of Nathan Hieronymus this past Monday. Many of you know Nathan. And Leslie Whitehouse, her brother, works here in the school district. Our hearts go out to that family at this time. So we'd like to turn this over at this moment to Dr. Stanifer to kind of remind us of what we shared last week, but also show the new models as well.
Before that, we do have one, who would like to make a
Yes, I'm
comment?
sorry. We do have one comment from Dan on Anton that was going to be done via video message.
Good evening. It's been a while, and I'm sure that you've all missed me, so I'm back, kind of. Of course, these days, I no longer speak for the Blue Ridge Federation. My opinions are only my own. I do not envy the position you are all in. There are so many pressures being placed on you to make the right decisions for our kids and our communities, and I'm sure that for most of you, the greatest pressure is that which you put on yourself. These are the kinds of decisions that cause people to lose sleep at night. Thank you for giving this moment the gravity it deserves. You sought input, weighed the options, and then sought more input. There are no perfect decisions, but your process has shown the importance of the moment. As a classroom teacher, 25 years, I can tell you, nothing prepared me for the remote learning situation we faced last semester. We went from normal school to teaching from home with only one day to transition. And teaching and learning are meant to be interactive. Losing that instant feedback from kids when an analogy doesn't make sense or a joke fails or a point is misunderstood was crippling. My freshmen spent twice as long on Romeo and Juliet, and I fear learned half as much. We didn't even get to the Odyssey. There wasn't time. And at that point, most of the freshmen had jumped ship anyway. Though my sophomores had a much greater level of participation, I had to throw out the intended curriculum and make it up week by week. Some of it worked, some didn't. And mind you, I am one of the lucky ones. I have good Wi-Fi. My own kids are old enough to take care of themselves, and my wife is able to safely work in her empty office on the UI campus. Plus, many important aspects of an English language arts curriculum are adaptable to remote learning. How some of my colleagues with young families or a subject matter that requires a hands-on learning mode made it work as much as they did, I will never know. One way or another, we will need to make it work under less than ideal circumstances again this year. Looking at the options before you tonight, those circumstances will involve some kind of in-person instruction, at least to start. Mind you, this will not come without a risk for me. 5 years ago, I had open heart surgery for a leaky valve. Years of poor blood flow in my heart caused some damage that will never heal. A few months after recovering from that surgery, I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. The only solution was to remove the kidney because the cancer was too widespread to treat it any other way. Having an injured heart and a missing kidney means that the coronavirus is especially dangerous to me. Because I have more than a few items on the high-risk list for this virus. I have been vigilant this summer about wearing my mask, limiting my interactions with others, and washing my hands. In fact, you are receiving this comment remotely because I simply don't want to attend a public function unless I absolutely have to. Until now, I feel as though my fate has been in my own hands. That will soon change. Come August, my fate is in your hands, the hands of the students and families, and in the hands of the Blue Ridge communities. The truth is, many of the people in our communities do not take this virus seriously. Civic leaders and citizens alike brag about not wearing masks and proudly encourage people to find ways to avoid complying with requirements to wear them. They openly refuse to support businesses, including local ones, if those businesses require them to mask up before entering. They would rather spend money elsewhere and spend more of it than mask up, despite recommendations from medical professionals, state and local health departments, the CDC, and the Surgeon General. If I thought that my students would willingly wear their masks and wash their hands in all situations that require you doing so, both inside and outside of school, if I thought that all adults in our communities would do the same, if I had faith in all stakeholders to treat this disease with the seriousness it deserves at all times, then I would be the first to beg you to let me go back to as close to normal as we can get. We all know that any such faith would be misplaced. As one local community member said in an online forum this week, Farmer City just isn't a mask-wearing town. Even if we as a school system can get 100% compliance from our kids while they are in our buildings, what happens once they go home? When I was a kid, one of our annual summer traditions was a family day at Great America near me. It was something we looked forward to with great anticipation. Inevitably, in the weeks leading up to that day, my siblings and I would fight with each other, or fail to pick up our rooms, or mouth off to Mom. And inevitably, Mom would say, Great America is coming up. If you want to go, you better start acting like it. The message was clear. If we wanted to do the fun stuff, we had to earn it by acting the part of kids who deserved it. It worked. We never missed a trip. Before you cast your vote tonight, please ask yourself, has the Blue Ridge community at large established a local culture that allows us to safely return to school? So many want us to get back to normalcy, but are they acting like it? If the answer is no, then the best thing you can do for the students, the staff, and the community is to take the most conservative approach possible when it comes to setting us back. No matter what you decide tonight, please remember this. You are all community leaders. I implore you to use your position to promote the behaviors that will keep us all safe. Actively advocate that people wear masks and wash their hands. Encourage people to get tested, even if they don't have symptoms. Model the behaviors that the scientists suggest, and risk your families and friends to do the same. I know many in our communities take this all seriously, but many don't. Let's make sure that the school system has one clear voice on this issue. And when we do go back, let's be vigilant. There is no level of acceptable coronavirus in our schools. As soon as one student or staff member tests positive, we should be prepared to shut the whole thing down. This virus is like winter mice. When you catch one, you know more are lurking. And even the one you caught was causing harm before it was detected. I didn't like remote teaching, but I prefer to knowingly risking the lives of my students, my colleagues, and yes, myself. Having an entry plan is important, and I'm glad we will have one tonight. Let's make sure our exit plan is just as clear.
I think Hillary's going to move on to the findings and these screenshots will be also posted for those of you who are unable to see them virtually. They'll be posted tomorrow to where you can actually access the data that was received from the surveys.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and to those who are watching us live stream. Now, we're going to start by going over the plans that we're going to be discussing and voting on tonight. I want to remind everybody that our reopening plans prioritize following current health guidelines, consistency across learning environments, and being mindful of our most vulnerable populations. And it's also important to us that we have invited everybody who's impacted by our decisions to have their voice heard. Couple definitions as we move through. We will refer to a group of students as Knights. Those would be students whose families choose for them to learn remotely using an online purchase curriculum. And that's going to happen one semester at a time. Blue and Silver students, we may need to use these designations, but these students would be those who attend on campus for some portion of the week. And we'll talk about how that plays out as we go further in the presentation. You could be a Knight while the state is in phase 4, which we are right now. Parents could opt for you to do that. Or you would remain a Knight if, by some chance, our state needs to return to phase 3. Some details about the Knights. Parents may opt for their students to learn remotely, regardless of phase or documented medical condition. Parents are asked to make the selection during the registration process. Online registration will be open from July 31 to August 7th. Walk-in registration, by the way, which is required for pre-K, K, and any new to district students, will be held in person in each building on August 6th. So if anybody is wanting to do the remote learning for the whole entire semester, the registration process is how you will let us know that. Knights will be using a purchased online curriculum. Their support will come from designated district personnel. So for example, if your child is a 3rd grader, and you would like for them to be a Knight and learn remotely for the first semester, then we would assign a teacher, maybe not that classroom teacher, but assign another teacher that will cover the support of that child and any other child that is assigned to the Knight group. We don't know how many numbers that will be right now, so we don't know how many teachers or staff we will need to assign to that role. We are currently researching 2 different platforms right now. One is Edgenuity, which is used currently at the high school level in the Alt Ed program, and we are also looking at a program called Edmentum. Once this learning model has been selected by a family, students will remain a Knight for a full semester, and that's renewable for another semester in January. Any questions from anybody who's here about a phase 3 or phase 4 Knight?
Will there be technology provided for each student? Like a Chromebook or something to the...
Technology, yes.
Oh.
Yes.
The Knights on that used to be, it's not this remote 2.0. That's something different.
We'll get to that in the next. So I'm going to back up to phase 3. I'll put this in here in this order on purpose. Phase 3, Remote Learning 2.0, which you've heard that before. Please note that if the district needs to return to remote learning due to orders from Governor Pritzker, or perhaps an outbreak in the community or school, the student body, the entire student body, would move to remote learning. Those who are moving to remote learning due to a governor change or a community outbreak, those students would still use Blue Ridge curriculum and would be supported by the Blue Ridge staff that they had been working with. So this would be available for Blue and Silver students. The Knights, who already selected remote learning with an online purchase curriculum, would stay in their Knight program. Okay, phase 4, Model A. This involves some of the decision that's going to be made tonight. Do we want to choose Model A or Model B? So a little bit more about Model A. Model A is where we have broken the remaining population. The Knights have been taken out now. We've broken the remaining population into equal parts. One would be called Blue, one would be called Silver. Both Blue and Silver are remote asynchronous learning on Mondays. Students receiving or requiring special education or related services may receive supports on Mondays in a variety of ways. It may be online, it may be in small groups, it may be in person. Tuesday and Wednesday is when Blue attends in person, dismissed at 2:20. Silver learns remotely, so we'll call that Remote Learning 2.0. Thursday and Friday is when Silver is on campus with a 2:20 dismissal, and Blue has remote learning. What happens after 2:20? Office hours for Blue and Silver students. So if I was not learning on campus that day, I may have a question. That would be a time where a teacher could answer that question. Of course, we have our sanitizing protocols that would happen after 2:20, and then also instructional planning. A teacher may be planning, even though we have nights and they have their purchased curriculum, a classroom teacher will still be teaching some kids in person and some kids remotely. Also in phase 4 would be choice B, model B. On Mondays, again, the students would be remote and learning asynchronously. Students receiving special education and related services may receive supports in a variety of ways, online, small groups, or in person. Tuesday through Friday, all K through 12 students attend on campus with a 2:20 dismissal. So basically, Model A, students are coming in 2 days a week, remote for 3. Model B, the difference is that students are coming in 4 days a week. Tuesday through Friday after 2:20, office hours, sanitizing of learning spaces, instructional planning. And I apologize, I didn't get pre-K on here. Pre-K is not able to follow Model B because of the size requirements that go along with the grant for pre-K. So pre-K students will have to come in a blue and silver method. So we have a survey that went out for a second time. This was the survey that was sent out on the 17th. For the parent survey, we had good response. We had 274 families that responded, representing 394 children. So that's approximately 56% of our enrollment. You can see the numbers there. Pre-K through 3rd, 17 say that they would be choosing remote learning 2.0. And I should have said, instead of remote learning 2.0, I apologize, I should have said nights right there. So 17 nights requested for pre-K to 3. For the 6th grade, we have 10 that would be requesting to be a night, 7th and 8th grade 5, and from the senior high, 14. And you can see in the middle column are the requests for Model A. Again, Model A is coming 2 days a week, remotely 3 days a week. And then on the right-hand side, you can see Model B. Model B is 4 days in person. And we'll show you a graph of that in just a moment. Let Dale finish writing down. Good. Okay, so that's what that looks like graphically. So again, remote learning 2.0, please forgive me, that should say nights right there. So the blue, those are the parents that are opting to keep their child home, learning with a purchased online curriculum. The red is representing 2 days a week, and the yellow is representing 4 days a week. Any questions before we go on? Yep.
And I hope that most of you listening and most of you here have actually read through the models. It's very detailed, it's lengthy, it gives you, because we listened last week, came back to let you guys know exactly how the makeups look like in a room as far as spacing between the students, spacing transition-wise between classes. And so hopefully, I hope that you enjoyed all that reading, and it helps you as far as feeling comfortable enough to fill out the survey as it is. Does the board have any questions or anything they would like for clarification? Maureen or Chelsea remotely?
They just wanted to number type at the moment.
Okay.
The glare is horrible.
You have to give her the mic so you can hear her.
Okay, so I'm going to continue. So the staff was also surveyed again on 7/17, and their choice was between, we didn't need to ask them anything about being a night because that doesn't apply to them, but we wanted to ask their preference with bringing students back 2 days a week versus 4 days a week. 126 staff responses. If a staff member responded that they were across multiple, they belong in multiple categories, then their answer was put in multiple categories, and that was a very limited number. We only went up to 129 responses there on the chart after hearing from 126 people. So again, we are separated into categories. I wanted you to be able to see pre-K to third grade certified staff, so those would be teachers, versus pre-K to third grade PSRP, that would be an instructional aid in the classroom. Fourth through sixth grade, we did the same thing, certified versus an aide in the classroom, same thing for 7, 8, 9, and 12. And then you'll also see transportation, food service, secretaries, custodial, and we have a few that were in the other category. And I'll write these down for you. So if you wanted to see that in a graphical formation, we have a stacked bar graph there. You can see that model B is the red, model A is in blue. A would be 2 days a week, and it's stacked on the bottom. B would be 4 days a week, and that comes showing up on the top.
We know when the next report or new releases are going to be coming from the state.
The CDC released new information today. In fact, this was through a phone call from our RN over in the Mansfield building, Dawn Stout, was able to get a hold of somebody at the CDC today, and they have brand new information, something a little bit different than what we have heard. If you think you're sick or know that you have COVID-19, they're asking you to stay home at least 10 days since symptoms first appeared, and at least 24 hours, it used to be 72, 24 hours with no fever, without fever-reducing medication, and symptoms having improved. So there's a little bit of change going on with CDC. I'm not sure if that represents everything that is going to be changed. So there we have the difference between the two models that we're choosing. So anybody is allowed to pick to be in the night category, which would involve you learning remotely through a purchased online curriculum, 1 semester commitment at a time. The choice for the board tonight is to take the rest of the students. In one model, the model A, they would be broken into blue and silver groups. Blue attends 2 days, silver attends 2 days, the balance of the days will be remote. Model B is actually bringing everybody back 4 days a week. That would not require separation into blue and silver. And in the document that we shared, it went into a lot of detail about social distancing would not be able to be maintained according to the 6-foot guidelines if we were all back in the building and under Model B. We would do our very best, but it wouldn't be possible to maintain that.
And with the Model B, we talked at one time, is it gonna have to have, more staffing required or, modification to facilities?
More staffing may be required simply with the fact that we have nights who will be learning remotely, and they will be taken care of by a different group of students, a different group of teachers. In terms of what could we do to bring everybody back to have social distancing, that would require having additional spaces. Some buildings have additional space, others do not have them built in. It would take the possibility of looking at moving students to a different building or purchasing a trailer that could be parked on grounds, but we would need to staff it. And so not only is that a financial concern, but that's actually can we physically get someone to apply for such a position, noting that we still have 2 open positions at the intermediate junior high and 12 right now that we've been unable to fill.
So whichever model we decide on tonight, there's still gonna be a burden to families for childcare after 220, if they do the 4-day option. And then there'd be a burden for actually three days if, and after 220 on the other Model A. And unfortunately, we won't have any kind of idea of how we can as a district help that. until further to the call. Wait to see from the response from the YMCA, that's a possibility to help on that. Again, that would be financial, responsibility of the, parents. But my understanding is the YMCA will base that fees on
They work on a sliding scale.
a sliding scale, so. I personally, when we do open up for you guys to have some questions that are here, I don't know if we have it made up and where people can submit questions virtually or not. And I just ask that you would take a microphone, give your name, before you share, that way people know who's talking. It's hard to tell, face mask on and everything too. Is there any questions from here on the floor? I know most of you were here last week and asked questions, yes.
I'll speak for my husband. He worked, oh, okay, sorry. I'm Amber Barker, but I'll speak for my husband,
Push the
Steve.
button, check the orange, hold it in. So,
I got it. He works nearby. He hasn't been out really of the house since March. I'm the only one who goes out in our family. And, he was more concerned about what happens when we do, because it's almost inevitable that somebody will be sick at some point in time. Have we figured out what our procedures are for that yet? He knows that the CDC currently recommends shutting down for one sick person and for so many days. And we wanted to know if somebody is found sick, are we shutting down immediately, or what's that kind of procedure?
It's hard to give one answer to a question like that because there's a lot of things that are involved. If we are able to maintain social distancing faithfully, then when we make that call to the health department and they help guide us, they're going to be asking those questions. Were the people in the surrounding area masked? Were they able to maintain the 6 foot social distancing? And that will help them decide how wide that circle would be that would need to be away from school for the next 10 days.
So it'd be on their guidance then?
Yes.
I think there was in the paper recently a situation at a facility, where just one area was affected with that, and that the rest of the facility was able to operate. It was just the one area that were asked for that families and those that were contacted going to quarantine. I don't know if that's how it's gonna work, like, Dr. Stanford said, it could be from the regulations from the, Public Health Department and the CDC as well. Yes, in the back, would you mind coming to the mic? Put that on the top.
This one's already on.
So I'm Darby Buchanan, and I just had a question. So as a parent trying to choose between, is my kid going to be a night, or are we gonna go ahead and do on-site learning? One of the questions I have, we're a mask wearing family. So I know that it's gonna be, written that the kids have to wear masks. I wanna know what's the protocol for enforcing that. If you have students who refuse to comply, are they sent home?
Yes.
Okay, so that makes a difference on how I make a decision. I wanna know that if it's just written and it kind of just, Johnny, put your mask on, or is it, you do it or you're sent home?
Right. Now, I can't say that, we're going to address the second grader the same way we're going to address the 10th grader, but,
Right.
there will be a reminder to put the mask on, but if there is a repeated problem or a refusal, then that student will be sent home for not complying with the health requirements. If they can come back wearing a mask, they're welcome to try to come back, but if they cannot, if they are refusing to wear that mask, then that's gonna push them into, being a night.
Okay. And then my other concern is I know that there are people out there that say that medically they cannot wear masks. So I'm just curious as to what is the school's then protocol for those individuals and whether or not we would allow students who can't wear masks to actually participate in school, or if they're going to have to go ahead and choose to be a night.
Right. I think
Because they might be okay, but who knows what the rest of their family is doing.
Right. So I think there might be a lot of leeway. I don't know, personally, but I can foresee there being a lot of leeway in what the doctor would say is they're not able to wear a mask. So we have put in our newest documentation that, if the doctor says they cannot wear a mask, that's going to automatically require them to have a meeting with the administrator of that building, and then they're together to talk about a learning plan. Now, we can all probably think of an extreme situation where a child actually cannot wear a mask.
Correct.
So in that type of situation, we're talking about when we make that personalized learning plan, it could be through an IEP process, it could be through a 504 process, it could be through a newly created 504 process, but we're gonna talk about if that child needs to be there and they're not able to wear a mask. Number one, could they wear a shield? Number one, or number two, could it be during a time when other children are not there? So could it be on a Monday? Could it be on after school Wednesday or Friday, for example, to spread it out a little bit? Is the staff member willing to, wear also the mask, maybe an N95 mask instead, and be in a 6-foot setting with that child who's wearing a shield only?
Right, I just wanted to ensure that the staff and the students, even the student who isn't, wearing a mask in that situation, that they're protected, and, that everybody's protected, so, thanks.
Is there anyone else on the floor who'd like to ask a question? Okay. So, amongst the board here, looks like, if I did my math right, and Francie, I don't know if you would write down numbers or anything. Looks like the community input on the surveys, you had on Model A roughly about 148, whereas Model B you had like 200, but that didn't matter. On the staff, certified staff, it looks like you had 63 on Model A and 33 on Model B. Non-certs, it was like 20 to 14, 20 on A and 14 B, so it looks like total staff was like 83 for Model A and 47 for Model B. Correct. And I wasn't good at math, so I apologize. Any questions from any of the board members before we ask you as far as what your thoughts and feelings on which model you would like to see with district? As you know, we heard from the administrators last week. Ryan wasn't here. He had a nice letter he wrote, we read it, and I know he said that he back whatever direction the district says, but Ryan, would you like to hopefully say how you feel as administrator in your school building, which model?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning more toward the hybrid at this time, just for the social distancing piece, and a lot of our kids, especially too, when they're younger, have difficulty maintaining that social distance, hands themselves, and so on. I think at the beginning, even if we could start with the process similar to that, after several weeks or a month, and when we get those routines, procedures that are really well done, and maybe bring the whole group back together for a full type option. But my most important thing is I want some type of in-person instruction. Obviously, that's where we're going to get the most bang for our buck, and we're really going to impact students.
Kate, I know that last week you were on leaning towards the Model A, the hybrid model. Is that are you still in the stance there as far as you feel for your campus?
Yes, that's still my stance right now, is Model A, the hybrid model. And again, I'd like to start out with that, not to commit to the semester for that, but maybe the first month, have the routines and procedures down, have students understand the mask wearing, the hand washing, and everything, and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. John, likewise, have you remained as far as with the hybrid model?
Yes, I still like the hybrid model, mainly 2 reasons. One, to get the habits down for wearing masks, hand sanitizer, and all that. Also, the second reason is if we open up after a while and then we have to fall back on something, this is the hybrid we've actually practiced and we've tried it, we know what it's like. I think if we have to close down and go all the way back to just remote learning, and then open up again, a hybrid wasn't practice, we don't know how to do it. It'd be really hard to just get started with a hybrid having not done it. So I recommend we do this for a little while, and then if things look fine, we'll go ahead and open up.
Okay. Yes.
I've had a request from the people on the stream, if you could repeat the numbers, please, the totals that you came up with.
Okay, well, my numbers were correct. The communities, survey, totals for the Model A were 148. Totals for Model B were 200, but I don't know if that matches what the total surveys are done. 348, so there's something missing. Oh, I didn't put in the remote learning 2.0 in these,
Seems to be that, those are nice.
oh, the night, I'm sorry. So the night figures were not included in that. I think there's, what, it's 46, is that correct?
Yes.
46 were the night option. The others were Model A, 148, Model B, 200 on community. Staff certified again, Model A, 63, Model B, 33. And the non-certifieds on the staff were Model A, 83, and Model B, 47. Put the mic up there so the virtual can hear it.
So with a high school student who doesn't want to wear their mask or refuses to wear their mask, our choice is to send them home, is that correct?
Yes, and if they have a change of heart with perhaps parent guidance when they get home and they decide they're going to come back and comply, then we welcome them back. And if they decide it's just not going to happen, then they would be going to the night group.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess I'm just thinking about the high school students who are already in school, so they're going to, you know, just not wear masks so they get sent home. I can just see that being, you know, just one more thing the teachers and the scores have to deal with on a daily basis. So, I guess I'd say what I'm asking is, if a student is capable of wearing a mask and they don't want to wear a mask, they're sent home, then immediately, I just think that some high school students could just choose to do that, just to do it. To say, okay, I want to go home. So, or I want to be at home. So, how many times are we going to allow this to happen before we say, well, no, this is going to be, you're going to go to the right place?
I think that might be an administrative choice, but I don't see it happening more than our budget at one time. And if we can't interact with it, then we won't. That's what the rule is, we have to be that special user.
So hopefully this student or child will have responsibility and realize the burden that they're putting on their family. Hopefully the family members will be able to help persuade them into understanding the importance of wearing a mask. Hopefully, they don't think it's cool to do it, but I think if they see enough of their friends wearing a mask and staying to the rules, that they would be likely to do so as well, hopefully.
I feel
Yes.
like we're trying to give everyone a choice. So for family, if your high schooler or whatever grade student, you feel that a mask is going to be an issue for them, then we choose the night option. I mean, we're trying to make options available so that people can choose. And I think I said last week, but if your family, you have to look inside your own family and have that discussion of what's best for your child. We're definitely not here to tell you what's best for your child. If it's not best for your child to wear a mask or you're just against it, we can do other. Then just choose the night option. We still want to entertain your children. That's the most important thing at the end of the day.
You see, Hillary, and I think you touched on this, was if in the middle of the semester the compliance rulings, all the regulations are relaxed a little bit where you don't have to maintain a 6-foot distance, maybe a 3-foot, maybe you might go from 50 and then to 100, and that changes the game plan big time.
Right, and you said that everything's fluid, so, I mean, we could very well have a change before August 19th, for all we know. It's very possible. They'd like to think that once they make a decision, we can start planning for the details, but it could change. And yes, absolutely, if something changes and it looks like we are able to bring more students back than what we started originally, or if we bring everybody back and we can go from 4 days to 5 days, then that's something that we will do. I think everybody's desire is to have kids in person as much as possible. we're just hesitating with that safety factor right now. So when things open up, then absolutely we'll come back with it.
Hillary, are you saying that's something that could also happen potentially in the middle of the semester?
Yes, that could. And let's talk about the other direction too. Let's say that we get shut down by the governor, or because we have enough cases here, the whole district has to go remote. That, just to be clear, that's not going to push us into everybody being nice. That's gonna push blue and silver into being, instructed remotely by the same classroom teachers that we've been with. So it's gonna give us a nice fluid back and forth if we need to go that way.
Before we go further, let's ask you for, thoughts from each board members where you're leaning on this models. I just want to thank again the community. I want to thank the staff. The numbers of this participation in the survey is just unbelievable, beyond percentages that normally you get back in surveys. So I know that there were people here present last week that went out and really said, listen, we gotta have our voice heard, we want to be able to share how we feel. We thank you for the input because it really helps us as a board make some decisions. I want to thank you again. Ken, since you're on the end, I just wondered, last week if you had shared your model preference. I didn't know if you changed from that or not.
I had said initially I was supportive of B after considering all of the feedback and thinking about this further, as well as the feedback from principals. I would support model A at this point, knowing that we would move, either way. But I think it's just gonna be a better transition overall for the students, just considering where we're at now and the way things have been going. So I would support model A.
Yeah. Maureen?
Sorry, I didn't hear yes. So last week I was model A, and the last few days I have been leaning toward 4 days, consecutive days. But just sitting here and listening to more comments and just really thinking through it, I need to stay with model A. I just think, being able to be a little bit more fluid and move back into a 4 day if we could later into the semester, I think that would be a way to go. But just make sure we have, following protocols and we can maintain distance. I think it's been, I think that's the way to go.
Chelsea?
I am still a proponent of model B. I think it is in the students' best interest educationally, socially, emotionally, for them to be in school as many days as possible. So I'm going to stay with model B.
Thanks, you.
This is a really hard one for me. I've definitely been struggling. I would say all day today I'm definitely leaning towards model B. We'll say that just because of trying to get the students in, trying to listen to what the parents had said, but a lot of things were leaning into definitely doing that. Mr. Anderson, I definitely have a concern. I don't want any of our staff to feel that their health is at risk. Everything I'm reading is that the risk is higher. To the older you are, the more your risk is. Not how I hope I'm right, but I feel safe for my children, the younger children, and I feel better about them than I do for some of our staff that are maybe a little more veteran staff, that I don't want them to feel that way. Hearing that we could evaluate, and if our area is doing well, when we bring back all the students for all the classes and things are going well, that in October or into September, we could reevaluate and maybe look to transition to 4 days. That makes me feel better that it's not like we're shutting it down for the whole semester necessarily. So I could go with model A, knowing that it's not set in stone. If things are going well and we can bring these kids back safely and our staff is safe and everyone's safe, the sooner we can do that, the better. I'm on board with that, but I also just want to make sure everyone feels safe. I don't want a staff member to feel that they're forced into an unsafe situation. That's, I think, my biggest, we have the option for the parents. Do you want to do remote only, but we don't have that option for our staff. They can't drive the bus remotely, and they can't, come and cook food remotely for your children. They can't teach your children totally remotely. Someone has to be there for the students in the building. So we have to also think about, where their feelings are on that, and only they know their health conditions, that, we need to just accept that. That's why we need to stay right now.
You said Molly. Carlos?
Last week, I was wanting to go to Mama P, and I like to see all the students in so they can get a better education. I just don't like the idea that they don't get as good deal that they do if they're in school. I'm really don't know for sure which one I want right now, but I think it's, we'll have to, I still like to go with Mama B.
I understand difficulty here. I realize that each model is also going to put a lot more stress on the parents, but also on the staff itself. I'm thinking, if I remember right, the Model A would actually be more taxing upon the staff. Is that correct? Because not only do they have their students in class, but then after 220, they have to do remote with those who are not in class period. But I see that they spoke pretty strongly on how they felt. Also, I've always felt that I don't want this district to be the example of what not to do. And I do know that there's a lot of other districts out there that are going full open, and that's their prerogative. They can do that. And I do believe, and I feel strongly that a lot of other people believe that there could be another outbreak this fall. And so I just rather take the cautious route and start up the hybrid model myself to see the transition. And like, if the things, public health department and the CDC, the governor are all on the same page, and we see the things, my concern is, and as Don shared, I really do believe our community is not taking this serious. I really believe that. And until someone passes away in this community because of this disease, then their eyes are going to open up. And maybe it's too late then, because then it becomes a pandemic in our community. So I'm for model hybrid A. It looks like we have a consensus for that, so I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to approve the blended learning, remote learning 2.0 plan, model A, for the 2020-2021 school year as presented, and I'll make that motion. Need a second?
Second.
Maureen? Need a roll call?
Francie Miller,
Yes.
Maureen Gilbert,
Yes.
Carlos Burton,
No.
Kenna Johnson,
Yes.
Chelsea Leffelman,
No.
Dale Schneeman.
Yes. So we have that. We have direction now for our administration team to be able now to plan for that model. And hopefully with this decision, you'll get more information via text or emails concerning how things are going to look, how things will work, and also any changes to guidelines from the higher ups as well. I'd like to thank everyone again for being here tonight. Thank you for those of you virtually listening in. Wish you could have been here, but we understand. And anyway, I'd like to have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting at 7:49 p.m. Carlos?
Second.
Yeah.
Francie Miller,
Yes.
Chelsea Leffelman, Maureen Gilbert, Maureen Gilbert,
Yes.
Kenna Johnson, Carlos Burton,
Yes.
Dale Schneeman.
Yes. Thank you. Good evening.